Good morning, this is Arnav from PyCode. Today we would be covering the chapter Emerging Trends of CBSE Class 11 Computer Science. The topics to be covered, firstly we would be talking about artificial intelligence, what it is, what are its advantages. Next we would be covering big data, then the Internet of Things, cloud computing, grid computing and blockchain. So what is AI? AI comprises of the two words artificial and intelligence. We all know that artificial means something which is man-made, and intelligence is the thinking capacity or power which it has. So AI is basically a man-made thinking power. It exists when a machine can have human-based skills, such as learning, reasoning, and solving problems. Also, it helps simulate the natural intelligence of humans into machines. So it can do everything which basically a human can do. An important point to note here is that a knowledge base is a store of information consisting of facts, assumptions, and rules, which an AI system can use for decision making. Next, we talk about machine learning. Now, this is a subsystem of AI. It uses algorithms to make predictions. It can learn from example through self-improvement and without being explicitly coded by a programmer. Also, like mathematics is involved here as we use statistics in making predictions through the models. First, there are a lot of trainings which take place, and you check predictions. Once you get a result which is desirable, then you can use it in real life. So also, data is that when after successive training, machine learning is used to make predictions. Now this has a variety of applications and includes image, speech, and traffic recognition software, and email spam and malware filtering based on ML. Next is NLP, also called as natural language processing. It is basically a way so that computers can actually analyze and understand and derive meanings from a human language. It also helps facilitate communication with intelligent systems using a natural language. Now, there are two components of NLP, NLU and NLG. So one example of NLP is like using typing keywords and spell checking features, where you can see ki automatically only like it's predicted what your next word is going to be. In any phone, you can actually check that out. Also, there are various chat boxes available online in websites where you can actually chat with them, which uses NLP and gives you answers which are not actually humans but like AI and uses NLP. So they interact with the customers and help serve their queries. Also, the picture shown above is shows from speech to text conversion. So we all have like Alexa, or like we all have we can have a smart TV. So in that, speech to text conversion takes place. Now, an immersive experience is one which can actually help us visualize, feel, understand, and like get stimulated through our senses and appeals. It also helps enhance our interaction and involvement, so it makes it more realistic and engaging. There are two types of immersive experiences. One is VR, also called virtual reality, which is basically a three-dimensional computer-generated situation, and it helps simulate the world surrounding us. Now, the user in a VR can actually interact and explore the environment while also interacting with the objects. So this has many applications, like many of you probably play many games like PUBG, etc. So it is used in gaming, military training, etc. Like even for training astronauts, VR is used so that they're equipped to actually once they go in space, they can uh, like feel have a simulation of how it is actually in space. Next is augmented reality. Now, this is generated by the perceptual information over existing physical surroundings. So it just complements or adds to the physical surrounding, unlike VR, where it actually simulates the world. Now, this makes the interactive environment interactive. And one example, another game over here could be Pokemon Go. Robotics. So a robot is a machine which is capable of carrying tasks. automatically with accuracy and precision. That is the entire point of a robot. And it is programmed by a computer, and it helps follow instructions through the computer program by a given line of code. And why do we use robots? Now, we use robots primarily to do mundane and repetitive tasks which humans find too boring to do. And like one example could be a drone which is remotely controlled and uses sensors and GPS for filmmaking and aerial photography. This uses robotics. Big data. This is the next segment where we talk about big data. So, with the evolution of technology, enormous volumes and amount of data was generated, which was called or termed as big data. This type of data cannot be processed and analyzed using traditional data processing tools due to its large volume, but also it is quite unstructured. So, what is unstructured? It can be post, instant messages, and chats which we send out to our friends, family, etc. Now, also there are various challenges involved, like integration, storage, analysis, searching, transfer, querying, and visualization of such data. Big data is of rich information and is of high business value. So there are a lot of efforts involved in actually developing the software to process and analyze big data, as it can give greater returns in the future for any business. Now, what are some of the characteristics of big data? It has a massive volume, as I discussed previously, so it is massive in size and difficult to process with traditional tools. Velocity. It is basically just simply put the rate at which data is generated and stored. Now, big data, due to its higher volume, also has like a higher rate compared to the traditional data. It also has a large variety of structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. Like we talked in the previous segment about how post messages, etc., are unstructured. It has veracity, which refers to the trustworthiness of the data, as processing incorrect data can give incorrect results. Hence, it is very important that we choose and pick our data from a reliable source, as it can also give us wrong results. Also, big data sets also have, as I discussed previously, it also has hidden patterns and useful knowledge, which can also be of high business value. Internet of Things. It is a network of devices which have embedded hardware and software to communicate with other devices on the same network. As you can see here, the Internet of Things helps interact with a PC, an aeroplane, another PC, a phone, a house, a microwave, etc. Now, this brings these devices together and works in collaboration with them. So it eventually creates an intelligent network of things. So an example is that like if there's a microwave oven, an air conditioner, a CCTV camera, all of these devices are enabled together, which are connected to the internet, and we can simply access them using our smartphones. So it is much more convenient and easy to access. Web of Things is basically allows us to use web services to connect to anything in the physical world. And this web of things actually helps us create smart homes, smart offices, etc. Also, as I mentioned earlier, having one interface which can connect to all devices becomes extremely convenient through this integration. Sensors. Now, sensors, like they're very commonly used. They're used for monitoring purposes and also observing things in the real world. What is a smart sensor though? It is basically a device which simply takes input from the physical environment and uses the built-in computing resources and performs functions which are predefined and processes data before passing them on. For example, the change in display from vertical to horizontal is due to two sensors. Now, the accelerometer sensor in mobile phones helps us detect the orientation, while the gyroscope sensor tracks the rotation of our hand and also adds information supplied by the accelerometer. This is the example which we're talking about for the change in display from vertical to horizontal. Now, I think all of us have heard about smart cities. that the plan is by 2050 or after a few decades to actually transform to smart cities. But have you ever wondered what they exactly are? Now, we all know that there are many challenges which exist in our everyday lives. Like we have air pollution, health and sanitation problems, traffic congestions, public safety and security. Now, to combat these problems, we look for smarter solutions. One way is through a smart city. A smart city just uses computer and communication technology alongside IoT, also called the Internet of Things, to manage and distribute the resources efficiently and more equitably. For example, like there can be a smart building which may use sensors to detect earthquake tremors and warn passerbys to be better equipped to face them. So it has a lot of advantages. Hence, we all should try adopting any smart ways which we can, even in our own households. Now, cloud computing. I think like most of you are not familiar with what cloud computing is. So let me explain that in a little bit more detail. Now, it is basically when you're using computer services which are delivered through the internet or the cloud, and they're accessible to the user from anywhere in the world. Let's say you be in US, United Kingdom, India, Australia, etc. Now, these services combine comprise of many like things like software, hardware, which include servers, database, storages, and etc. And these resources are provided by companies called cloud service providers, and they charge on a pay per use basis. So it's more of like a subscription based model where you actually subscribe to the user to the company by paying a fixed amount of money every month or every year. So like examples include big large giant corporations such as Netflix and Facebook, which actually use cloud computing for storage of data. Now, the big players in the market for cloud computing are AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, owned by Microsoft. They're the most primarily used companies and softwares used for cloud computing. Cloud services. So we all know that like cloud service in this case is basically a service which corresponds to any facility provided by the cloud. So any functionality it does. So there are various three types of cloud services. So one is infrastructure as a service, where virtual machines, storage and backup facility are part of IaaS, and a user can also use the hardware infrastructure located at a remote location to configure, deploy, and execute the software application on that cloud infrastructure. Now, platform as a service is basically the facility provided by the cloud, where a user can install and execute an application without worrying about the underlying infrastructure. So, like, let's say we go on Google and we want to download any text editor. So, we can simply do that and execute the application without worrying about its actually infrastructure. Next is software as a service, where a user is not concerned about the configuration of the software as long as the required software is accessible. Like PaaS, the user is also provided access to the configuration settings that they are using. For example, Google Docs and Microsoft 365 are examples of software as a service. Grid computing. So, a grid is a computer network of geographically dispersed and heterogeneous computational resources. It is a computer network in which each computer's resources are shared with every other computer in the system. And the constituent resources in this grid are called nodes. These different nodes temporarily come together to solve a single large task and are used to achieve a single common goal. And this is different from IaaS. Now, grids can be of two types. One is the data grid, which is used to manage large and distributed data, which also requires multi user access. The next grid can be in the form of a CPU or a processor grid, where processing is done from one PC to another as needed, and it is divided into subtasks and divided to various nodes for parallel processing. Blockchains. The blockchain technology works on the concept of decentralized and shared database where each computer has a copy of the database. We all have one popular example of this is actually cryptocurrency, which is and also like NFTs, which are emerging in today's world, which actually uses blockchain technology. Now, like a block can be thought of like as a secure chunk of data, and each block has some data in it, of course, and it is called a header, which is visible to every other node, as discussed in the previous slide, and only the owner has access to the private data of the block, and no one else has access to it. And these blocks comprise of a blockchain. It is, as I mentioned earlier, it is like the most widely used in currency since data alteration isn't possible, since like the data gets altered every time you try to change it, so it helps bring transparency in the process. It has a lot of potential and actually can be used in banking, media, telecom, travel, and hospitality. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video and got to learn something new from it. See you in the other video. Thank you.